Hey there everyone, this is Carrie with Any Day Blessings, and today I have video 2 for you in my series showing you some tips and tricks using God's Design for Life by Master Books. So this is the Master Books edition, but if you have the Answers in Genesis version of this curricula, this video should still be helpful to you, I hope, but there are some Master Book distinctives that I will be highlighting throughout this that really make this most helpful to those that have that version of the course. These are the stack of books I'm calling Enrichment Books. I'm going to move them to the side because I'm going to look in the main book first. But those I'm calling Enrichment, not Supplement. I'm changing that term because I don't want to in any way give the impression that this isn't enough on its own, because it completely is enough to give a full year of science and just be a delightful course. So while nothing else is needed, I chose to get those other books to enrich our year. This here is a complete year of science. It's life science, as you can see. I have a couple other videos to go along with this series. One is already up on the channel at the time I'm filming this. In video 1, I showed you how I schedule this out. So I walked through how I'm going to do the lessons and all of that, some things that we're skipping, so be sure to check that out. I will try and leave that in the description below. And in the other video that I have coming up after this one, I will do a side-by-side comparison of the God's Design for Life beginner course, which is geared towards K through 2nd graders. This course here is geared for 3rd through 8th graders, but of course you could adjust that in many different ways to fit other age groups. In video 3, though, I'm going to put those two books side by side, help you with some placement questions, and show you how you can use the two courses together. So if this sort of thing interests you, please subscribe. Go ahead and like this video. That lets me know that this is the kind of content you like to see. I know my Master Books videos are well received here, so we will keep those coming. But I just thought I would let you know what is on tap next. Okay. The other thing I'm going to let you know before I hop into this is there is going to be a referral link in the description. I did not receive this free or anything. I paid for this, and I picked this out myself. I was not sent this to review, but this does take a while for me to review the material, to make the video, and all of that. And I do it willingly to help other homeschool moms. If you find this helpful and would like to use that referral link, it is down there for you, but if not, that's okay as well. I will continue to make these. It's just a way for me to get more homeschool books that I can then in turn show you all and use for my family. So, and it doesn't cost extra to you either to use that link. Okay? So all of that being done, let's hop into this and let's answer the first question. Why do I just have this book? This is the student book. This has all of the content for the course in it. Where's the teacher guide, Carrie? Where's that workbook with all the worksheets? Well, I chose not to get it. And I know this is what a lot of you have been waiting to hear. Why don't I have the teacher guide? Well, I looked at it and I thought about it long and hard, and I discovered that over on the Answers in Genesis website, you can actually print off copies of the worksheets and quizzes on their website. There's a free PDF of all of the worksheets that go with this course, and there is a copy, or it's a separate PDF file of all of the quizzes and tests for this course. Now, I could have purchased this all together in a book very similar to this from Master Books. The reason I chose not to was because, well, it was twofold. Number one, it was because of this sheet. This sheet right here messed me up in the worst way, and this is really the only kind of downer or I don't even want to say negative thing, just something I think that Master Books did that actually made the course a little harder to use. They typically are so wonderful at making courses fit for homeschoolers. This particular page, for me, for this homeschooler, made it more challenging. So I saw this page in there, and I'm thinking, after I do lesson 1, I do this page with my child, and it's assigned in the schedule and all. And when I came to this page, I became, kind of confused because, number one, it looked like some of these things were geared for bigger kids, and there was no indication on here as to what grade level these different activities were for. And number two, it looked like things that were already in the book that we were doing verbally, or that we had planned to do verbally. So this sheet confused me a lot. And this sheet is in every single lesson. They provide this sheet for every single lesson, and then after this sheet they will provide the actual worksheets that the child is to do. So I found myself, thinking, well, I'm going to rip this page out for every lesson because it's just confusing me. It's just kind of making things a little harder. It's making it so I can't just give my child the notebook and say, do the next page, because I don't want them to do this. This is kind of repetitious maybe, and a little, and it's not labeled well as to what age group does what thing. So I thought, I'm either going to rip this out of every page, or I'm going to purchase the PDF version from Master Books and only print off the pages that we need to actually do the activities. And then someone in a homeschool group somewhere suggested, well, if you're only going to print off a few things, why don't you just get the PDF that's free on the Answers in Genesis site? So really, cost had very little to do with it because Master Books is incredibly affordable. It really had to do with usability, and that strikes me as odd because I really find Master Books to be very user-friendly and very much geared toward the homeschooler. That's why I love it. That's why I share it so much, because I feel like it's a diamond in the rough when it comes to biblically based curricula. It's written to the homeschooler. This right here, in my opinion, one homeschooler to the rest of you, this is not helpful. So we just didn't get that. We didn't get the teacher's guide. We just went over to, or I just went over to Answer in Genesis. These here are not all of the sheets. These are just the sheets that are the printouts for the plants section. So you have three sections here: the world of plants, the human body, and the world of animals. This set of worksheets are the quizzes and the worksheets for this first section. That's what's here. So you see there's not really that much to print off. And you add one of these in addition, like one of these for every page that's here. It's like you're doubling your worksheets, and I just don't feel like that's good, though that worksheet is going to really make things better for us. So I just decided to not get the teacher guide. However, I want to tell you, in the teacher guide, there is some tremendous information in the front. I call it the front matter, and it is the basis for all of the Master Book Science courses. It's called the 7 C's. If you have never read that, I really encourage you to get at least one of the science teacher guides at some point, because that is fantastic. That foundation matter. I've actually read it before. We use Answers in Genesis in our Sunday school, so I've read that 7 C's, and that's letter C, by the way, not like sailing the sea. It's letter C, 7 C's of time, and I really think you should read that. I also think you should read kind of the Why Study Science from a Biblical Worldview section. So that's all in the teacher guide. I've read that elsewhere. I could get these elsewhere, so I opted not to get the teacher guide. There is no scripting, no day-to-day lesson help in the teacher guide. It's just these worksheets. After that front matter, that's all there is that's actually written to the teacher. Everything else is just worksheets and answer keys. So I don't have answer keys, but this is third grade science, and I have a science degree, so I think I'm okay. So that's why I don't have the teacher guide. If you decide not to purchase the teacher guide, there is, however, a page in here I'll highlight for you that does give some very brief instruction about how to use the course. It's on page 9 of the student book, and it does kind of tell you how to use this for different grades. I'm not going to read all through this. You can pause the video, or you can look this up. This is part of their preview over on their website, but this here tells you how to structure the course. For the purposes of this review, I will refer to the 3rd to 5th graders as the blue box kids because they do the activity in the blue box. And for the 6th to 8th graders, I will refer to them as the green box kids because they do the activities in the green box. So this is how this review is going to go. I'm going to show you a sample lesson here, walk you through how we intend to use it. I'm going to show you the projects for each section because there are some final projects that I think will give you a flavor for the hands-on component of this course. I'll also show you a few of those hands-on assignments and experiments as well. I'm going to show you the sample quizzes. I'm just going to show you those for plants because they pretty much follow that same pattern throughout. So I'm not going to show you all of them and try and not make this video any longer than it's already going to be. I'm going to show you the glossary and how we're going to do vocabulary. And I'm going to show you those enrichment books just very briefly. I will do separate flip-throughs of those. Just leave me a comment down in the comment section which books you'd like me to do a more thorough flip-through and a more thorough explanation of how we intend to use those books. Just let me know that down in the comment section, and I'll be sure to make a note that you want to see those. Otherwise, I'll just kind of get to those flip-throughs when I do. Okay, and then at the very end of the video, I'm just going to kind of give some concluding remarks about some common questions, some common things that I hear about this particular course, and then I will wrap things up. All right, so that's where we're headed. Let's hop in now to a lesson. This one I'm just going to start at the beginning because here we are. And the way I plan to use this, the way I plan to do a lesson is one of two ways. I plan to either read this ahead of time and summarize and how do I want to say? Let me back up a minute. I usually open up our science book now. We don't use Master Books, we use a different course. But the way I do it now is I will open up our science book about 20 minutes before we actually do a science lesson, and I will have my son, working on some independent math work or flashcards or something like that, and my daughter's doing something. So I just have about 10 to 20 minutes to just preview our science lesson. That allows me to see if there are parts that I need to summarize, maybe if the vocabulary is a little too challenging, or if the lesson is a little longer than I want it to be. That gives me the opportunity to summarize. So I will either read this through and then summarize it and teach it directly to my kids, or I'm thinking of using this course as kind of our introduction to note-taking. And the way that we're going to introduce that is by highlighting this year. So if I don't read and summarize this and just teach this directly to my child, I will do some co-reading and teaching him how to highlight and pick out important information, looking for things like numbered lists, looking for things like bolded words, looking for questions and then finding the answer that's given in a good sentence in the paragraph, things like that. And we'll go through and we'll co-read. So I'll read a paragraph and then he will, and then I will, and then he will, and so on. And we'll go through and we'll highlight as we co-read, and that is another way that we can approach a lesson. So I'll probably mix those up because I try to watch the amount of reading he has so he doesn't give a lot of pushback about that, because he's a very reluctant reader. Although he's very skilled at it, he does a great job, he has great comprehension skills, he just really doesn't enjoy it. He loves learning, but he just doesn't like reading so much. So I'm going to do some co-reading with him some days and highlighting, and then I will do some summarizing and direct teaching other days. After we do the reading through of the lesson, whichever way we do it, we will do these things orally. Now, I may not always do the taking it further. I'll kind of gauge where we are and see how wiggly my little guy is, but we will definitely do the what did we learn. After we read the lesson, we will also come back and make sure that he knows the words to know. So at the beginning of the lesson, I'll just point out that this is a word he needs to be looking and listening for. At the end of the lesson, when we do the what did we learn, I'll hop back over here to the words to know and ask him what that word means, or do you remember when we read about that? Can you find it on the page? Let's make sure we know what that word means, something like that. Now, as we progress in the course, I may expect him to know those definitions and be able to answer those maybe in written form. We'll see how that goes, but for at the beginning, that's how we're going to handle it. We are not going to I'm not going to ask him about the challenge words. If he asks about it, then we'll talk about it, but I am not going to ask him about those challenge words, being that he will just be a fourth grader. So after we answer those questions, we'll pop over here to the activities and do the blue box, because he's in fourth grade, so of course that's where he fits. And this is the worksheet for that. So at this point, I'm going to pull this book away and just show you the sample pages so you can see the types of worksheets and activities. Now, I am going to flip through in the book a section that doesn't have a lot of worksheets in the blue boxes. It has experiments and activities and nature study. So you can kind of see there's a balance of written activity and hands-on activity. That is one big criticism I hear of this course, is a lack of hands-on, and I hope to settle that in this video. So here is just an example of the worksheets. There is a game here that they'll cut out the cards. This is a sample of the quiz. This will be after the first 4 lessons. Masterbooks does schedule a separate day for quiz, and so they won't have a lesson in addition to this. They'll just take their quiz on that day. You can see it's a true, false, and short answer for the first quiz. They do vary the way that they assess as you go. And I'm just going to flip back to this real quickly. These, like I said, are available on the Answers in Genesis website for download. And I think that since there is no kind of placement test available that I know of, these quizzes, going and downloading these quizzes and seeing the kinds of information that your children are asked to recall, I think these are really helpful at placement. This is what I use to decide to do this in 4th grade instead of 3rd. And I think if you take a look at these quizzes, you'll be able to get a good sense of the placement for your child. So I only have the first page of each quiz printed off because the second page is the challenge questions, and that would be for the green box kids. And so I don't have those, but there are actually 2 pages to most of the quizzes, with the second page being the harder questions for the green box kids. Okay, so we have a lot of observation charts, things that have experiments and activities to go with them. You will also see different kinds of puzzles in here, word search puzzles. But all of these different charts that you're seeing represent an experiment that the children are doing and recording their findings. So all of those charts represent a hands-on activity. Okay, so this is representing an activity. I'm just going to flip through a little quicker here. You get the idea. Actually going to be making a flip book, which I think is super funny to show. I believe that it was a pollination, I believe. Here's that puzzle I was telling you about. So you see lots of different types of activities, labeling, short answer, true, false, multiple choice on the quizzes. Lots of different types of, is there one more? Oh, there's one more back here. Oh, 2 more. And that brings you to the end. So this would be the last quiz for the plants section. You see we have some matching and short answer. Very straightforward. That is a good sampling of the written work that you can expect in this course. Now let me give you just a sample of 1 unit's worth of hands-on projects. So this is something that's done within the lessons, and it's not, I'm sorry, I should have had this marked for you. It's not necessarily every week has this many, but I noted that this one in particular had quite a bit of hands-on things to do, a lot of, not so much experiments, but just a lot of observation in nature and with things around the house that you find. So this was in Unit 3. There was only 1 written activity in Unit 3, and that's because these activities just involve observation and discovery. So looking at different root vegetables and plants, doing a root poster. The classic celery, how the water gets up to the leaves. I've done that several times. My kids love that experiment. And this is part of the nature study, as well as this, looking at tree rings. So Unit 3 didn't have a ton of written activity. That's because pretty much all of those blue box activities were hands-on things that the children were to do. So I hope that gives you an idea as you go along, the types of hands-on versus written activity. I want to show you now the final project for each section. So the final project for plants is a plant collage and poem. Masterbooks has this scheduled as lesson 35, and they give it 1 day. I'm just going to refer you to my previous video 1 in this series, about why I am kind of deviating from that schedule. But this is the final project, a plant collage. It doesn't have directions for the different age groups, just there's one blue box, so if you have a green box kid, they would just do this. The other projects do have directions for the different age groups, but this one here is just kind of everyone's doing the same final project. You can see here, since we're here, I'll just kind of highlight this. This is the glossary. This is where your children can come if they're not able to come up with a good definition of the words to know from the text. They can come back here to the glossary. The glossary is located after each section. So the plant glossary is after the plant section, and so on. It's not at the back of the book in one big glossary. So only plant words are here in this section, and they are separated by the general words to know versus the challenge words. So hopefully that will make it easier for your kiddos to find their words. Let's go ahead and take a look. I'm not going to do lessons in the other sections because the lessons follow the same format. I will just kind of highlight to you here that the activities in the human body section are so super fun. A lot of movement because you're using your bodies to learn about your bodies. So it's really fun what they do in the blue boxes, at least. I didn't read the green ones because we're not going to be doing those, but in the blue boxes they really had some great movement activities and ways to appreciate the wonderful design of our created bodies. And so that was just a delight to me to read how they take every opportunity to point back to the Creator as we're studying all that He's made here. Let's take a look at this final project here for the human body. It's a human body poster, and there are some directions here, but take a look. There's plenty of direction back here for your blue box kids and your green box kids, and they will have separate things that they're doing. So this one is more age specific for this final project. Again, Master Books just assigns this as one day, and we are going to deviate from that, but just so you know ahead of time, that's why I'm showing you these, because I don't want you to get to the end and think you're going to do all this in one day, because I really don't think most people would if you're kind of big into projects like we are here. They do offer this lesson here that I think you should allow more than one day for as well. I really think you should take the time to dive into those scripture with your kids and spread that out over some time. So just my thought, just what we intend to do, and you can head back to video 1 and kind of hear a little more about that. You also have your glossary here after section 2. And then we're just going to skip right ahead to section 3 here and show you the final projects. Oh wait, you know what? I'm going to go to the front here because I want to show you something. Oh, look where I stopped. Acting like a whale. I mean, doesn't that sound hilarious and fun? I mean, this is going to be so much fun. And to the people who are saying there aren't hands-on activities, I hope this helps. Because this is loaded with them. If this is all the paper for one chapter and there's an activity per day, I mean, these are all the worksheets that you have. You certainly have lots of other types of activities. That kind of drives me nuts, because the people that are saying those things haven't done the course. They've just looked at the samples. Because I've asked them, I'm like, have you done this course? Because I have the book and I'm reading, and like my kids are running around like animals for like a whole 2 weeks. And they're getting out their toy animals and they're playing. I mean, I'm reading all these activities. I'm like, what course are they taking? Anyway, I don't want to be unkind or uncharitable, but just be careful that whoever's actually saying different feedback about any homeschool book, just make sure that they've actually used it and aren't going by samples or feedback from other people. Just make sure they've used it themselves, or at least have it and plan to use it. Okay, all right, enough of that. Let's look at this first, or the second lesson in the animals section. They start to prepare you here for what is going to be a really big final project. And I'm glad that this one is at the end. This is why I'm not moving animals to the beginning of the year, because this final project is pretty meaty. This is creating an animal notebook. But they give them direction to do it throughout the course. So it's not this big thing at the end. It could be, I suppose, if you wanted it to be. But they start it here and intend for you to carry it throughout the course. Or throughout this section of the course. Let me flip ahead to the final little bit. You see here, they give this for one day. Now, if you're behind and you haven't been doing things up along the way, you may need more than one day, and you probably still will need more than one day to put everything all together. Here are the directions for that notebook to kind of put it all together and present a final project. And then I think this would be great for a portfolio if you have to turn in a portfolio, or I would even, have your child give a go at an oral presentation. This would be a great thing to do because most kids really love animals, at least one kind of animals. They might like bugs or, something else, worms. they might like something in there. And then, of course, they do have a concluding lesson that kind of allows your child to look back to the Creator and thank God for the animals. One last glossary here, and then we are done. That's the end of the book. So that is the flip through of this book. Let me bring in, oh boy, sorry about the length of this video, you guys. Let me bring in, you see why I broke this up into 3 videos? There's so much I want to say about this course. Let me bring in this one first. So for the plants book, this is the enrichment book I picked up for that. And we're basically going to use our enrichment books on quiz days. So when we take the quiz, after the quiz, and in the book of plants, we're going to come through here and do one of these coloring pages and read the fun facts at the bottom. So if you're not familiar with these coloring books, these have stickers right here that you peel off. They just peel right off there, and you put the sticker on the page. I'm not explaining this well. There is a sticker that matches every picture in this book. So right there you have the Garden of Eden, and that's that same picture. So your child puts the sticker here and tries to color the picture to match the sticker, okay? And then there's just a little bit of reading down here that we can read together to just wrap up that lesson day. So we're going to use these. I'm going to allow my kids to each pick out a picture, and this says each kind of plant life contained a seed that God programmed to reproduce its own kind. This would be a beautiful page to color after our first unit in plants. And then you saw that we made a flip book that looked kind of like this, so we could use that after that quiz. So there's going to be, I believe, I think there's 6 quizzes in plants. So we will get to use 12 of these pages. I don't know how many pages are in here. 32. So we're going to have a lot of leftover pages, to this book. That's okay. They can pull this out on a fun Friday or something one day and finish this up if they want to. But we're going to get to about 12 of these pages, maybe more if my kids want to. But just something fun to bring in after quiz day is kind of a reward for finishing up a unit. Then for the human body section, I picked up these 2 books. And this book here, I'm actually going to schedule this in the lesson. Let me show you where. If you go to the front here, you can see a list of the entire course, all 3 books. Here, there is a section on genetics, and I plan to do a section in, or not genetics, fingerprints, I'm sorry, fingerprints. Plan to do a little mini unit, if you will, with this book right after lesson 31. So between lesson 31 and 32, we'll probably have 3 days or so in this book. If you are not familiar with this book, stay tuned. I am going to do a flip through of this book because this is so super cool. They teach some pretty high-level science concepts in an incredibly approachable way to children. And it really, I think it will just spark wonder and delight at the hand of the Creator. So I really think that's going to be a fun one. We're going to do that right after lesson 31. And then this book here, this is where I was going with genetics. This book here, there's a section I'm going to bring in after genetics. Where is, oh wait, I skipped it. After, where are we going here? Why am I not seeing? Oh, I think I had 2 pages together. So after genetics at the end, I will bring in this book. And I'm also going to bring this book in at the very beginning, the overview of the human body. So 2 points in this section, I will use this book. At the beginning, I plan to just read this chapter 1. Okay, so this will be over probably, for 4 days or so. Just read a little bit of this, okay? And then when we get to the end of chapter 1, oh goodness, maybe I didn't mean to read all of chapter 1. Oh yeah, chapter 1. When we get to the end of chapter 1, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to continue on with this book. But I'm going to read chapter 1 between this lesson here, the overview of the human body. I'll probably read about half of that or so. And then when we get down here to genetics, I will read, I keep skipping that page, I will read the other portion of chapter 1. My personal opinion of this book is that it's better suited for older kiddos, not, really, like high schoolers or something, but just probably after the 5th or 6th grade-ish time frame. The reason is because they do cover some pretty heavy topics. They do discuss abortion in here. They do discuss some things that are going to be hard truths for my kiddos to swallow, and I want to make sure there's a maturity level there that they can handle that. So we're just going to stick with chapter 1 right now, and we'll break that up over those 2 sections where I mentioned that. And then finally, the last section, I picked up these 2 books. It's designed to do what it does do, and this is a very simple board book. Very simple board book, but look at this fun little drawing activity. Have you guys seen this? Have you seen inside this book? This is so super cool. So there's a little square at the bottom, and it says draw along with Buddy. And you have your kids draw on the page, just, what did he add on this page? Okay, what did he add now? And you draw, and you get all the way to the end, and I'll save it. I won't spoil the surprise, but you have an animal at the end that you've drawn. And this book is really good for our introduction to animals. So this is going to come right after lesson 1 or 2. And I'm going to highlight to my son, hey, let's look, as we study this whole section of animals, let's look for all the ways that we can see God's design shown, where he had a reason for making the animals this way. And so I'm going to kind of just prepare my son to look for those things by reading this book at the start of our animals section. And then, of course, this is pretty self-explanatory. As we come to an animal, we are going to look in here. So when we get to the bird section, we're going to look in here. And when we get to the insect section, we're going to look in here. So this is just going to be a fun book that my kids can look at after animal time. These style of books are my son's favorite. They have fun facts, little word bubbles and circles. These are his favorite. This is very much like the Passport to the World book. He loves this. The colors are rich and brilliant. It's on glossy paper, so it just really shines and stands out. These are just gorgeous. Look at that crow. You guys, look at that. Oh my goodness. I just love this book. But this is going to be kind of a fun little reward to get out the big animal book after we're done with the lesson on that particular animal. So this doesn't cover all the animals that the God's Design for Life book covers, but it covers some that aren't in there. So I haven't decided if we're going to look at the same animals in this book or if we're going to maybe look at different ones. We'll play it by ear. But those are the extra books I got. So this is everything all together again. Not too overwhelming, right, for a year of science, studying all that God has made. This is going to be it. I'm not purchasing anything else for science. This is it. Got my downloads here. This is us for science for the fall, starting in the fall. And this will be my 4th graders book. And in the next video, I will show you my kindergartners book that will go along with this and how the two compare and maybe help you out with some placement questions. I hope to do that. Once again, down below in the description is a referral link. If you choose to purchase this, it adds nothing to your purchase to click that link. If you find this video helpful, that's just one way you can support this channel and the reviews that I do here. I hope this was a blessing to you. Please leave me comments and questions below. If there's anything I spoke in error, please let me know and I will correct that. But otherwise, I hope that this settles a lot of the questions that you had about this course. I hope that it addresses things that have been circling, that it's not enough or it's too dry, there's not enough hands-on activity. I hope it addresses those because this is an affordable, biblically based option that is homeschool friendly. And I hate to see people pass it up based on misinformation. So that is my purpose in making this video. I will see you in the next one.